The new alphabet song sucks. There's a new alphabet song? What do you mean? No way. All the kids in my family use the OG one. They changed it so much that LMNOP is not in it. Okay, yes, because kids say elemento. They spaced out LMNOP because kids started to treat it as one entity instead of different letters. Okay, so you tell the parents to sit with their children and teach them that it's not a letter. The problem is not the song. We don't need to min-max the song to teach children. The parents should be capable of teaching them without a song. That's the issue. That's all it is. Yeah, LMNOP is a skill check. Exactly. It literally is, but you know how kids are. You know how kids are nowadays. They have very absent parents, and it's not the kid's fault. I mean, the thing is, okay, I remember being like a baby, and I was broke, and I had construction paper cutout letters, huge ones, that my mother would hold up and ask me to repeat the letter. What sound does it make? Is there a word that starts with it? Even if I couldn't read yet? A, apple, oh, right? Like getting those ideas in your head. I was reading when I was 2. I wasn't reading full novels, but well, technically I was. I was reading entire kids' books alone before I was 2, okay? I don't think that's special. I think any kid can be taught that if they're given enough repetition, but I had a mother who was very present and went hard on this stuff, okay? And wasn't strict. She just made sure that that was done. I understand a lot of parents may not have the time to do that, but your kid should know how to read by kindergarten. And I cannot tell you how many kids show up, they're 5 years old, entering kindergarten, and cannot read full words, let alone sentences. They can't even read words out and sound them out. They have to be taught from scratch their letters because their parent sits them in front of an iPad and they sit there and they repeat the letters, but they have no idea what any of it means or how it relates to life at all. They have no clue. They just think it's part of a fun video. They don't know why they're learning it. And that is just weird. That should not be. That should not be at all. I don't know. It's just, and I have a lot of family members that, you know, have experienced this where they've seen, you know, they have kids and they see other kids in their own kids' classes that all just enter kindergarten and can't read. I remember my son's reading level was at 5. I believe he was reading Dr. Seuss. Yeah, I remember my dad always tells a story. He was like so proud of how early I was reading, and he would always brag about it. And he's not the type to like brag about stuff like this all the time. This is just the one thing I always heard him like mentioning. When I was entering kindergarten, they were doing the test. They evaluate each kid to see what they're up to and, you know, what level they're at. And they were like, can you read? And I was like, yeah, you know, 5-year-old me, yes. And they were like, can you though? And they were like looking at my parents like, does she just know the letters or can she actually read words? And my parents were like, no, she reads. She can read a book if you put it in front of her and comprehend it. Like she is reading level, not just looking at it and sounding it out level. And they were like, oh, okay. So the teacher points to like a book that they have, a rack of kids' books, and is like, pick one out and read it. So I grab one and I open it and I read the book, and I was like trying to read with inflection because my mother was very good at reading with inflection and being like, and then they said, whoa, you know, or whatever. Like she would do that. So I was like trying to read it with inflection, and the teacher was like, oh, very good. You must love that book. And I was like, no, I've never read this one. And they just kept like belittling me a little bit. And I was a kid, I didn't get it. And my dad was like getting kind of pissed. He was like, we said she reads. Like, he was getting pissed because like she was like, oh, you must know that one. He's like, no. So he had like an old receipt out of his back pocket that he pulled, and he just handed me the receipt and was like, read the back of that. And I just started reading the passage from the back of the receipt, and there were some things I had to like sound out, you know, and as I would sound it out, he'd be like, it's this word, and I would go, oh, okay, and I would like recognize the word and keep reading, and he was like, she reads. He was just so pissed. Your daughter's a great liar. Yeah. He was getting so mad, but he always tells that story because I was reading very early. But genuinely, like, we were broke, and I either would play stickball outside or read. So, you know, yeah, that's what I had. That's all I had. So if that's all a kid does for years, yeah, they're gonna know how to read. Like, that's fine. I got to school and there were other kids that were very capable of doing other things that I wasn't because they spent their time doing that. Like, that's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'm his favorite son. It's true. It's true. Tells me all the time. You know, he was getting so pissed. He was like, we said it, man. And then they were like, oh, she reads. Son, yeah. I'm the only daughter and I have a lot of brothers, and that's the joke. Whenever someone would go, who's your favorite son? He'd always say me. The one brother next oldest from me, my slightly older brother, he would always, he would get things wrong on purpose and laugh about it. So when he was learning to read, he would point at a letter and my mom would be like, which letter is C? And he'd point at the wrong one and laugh about it. like he'd be like, sorry, my cat's in front of me. He would laugh about it and he'd be like, because he thought he was like a real wise guy. I remember when I was learning to read, he would try to teach me the wrong thing on purpose. So I think when I was younger, I stayed extra vigilant because I knew there were like the ops were there. The ops were trying to keep me down and I wasn't going to let it happen. So I think part of me taking a great interest in reading was genuinely because one of my brothers was actually trying to mess it up. Yeah, he was trying to sabotage me, and I was aware of the ops at all times. And even now, you know, that's why the ops can't get me. I was trained for this. I know how it works, you know, no hater can ever get to me because my brother, the one that's slightly older than me, is my biggest hater. And, you know, nothing you can ever do will ever be worse than him. And we love each other. That's my beloved brother, you know. I've been trained for this, man.